Recall your day today. How many times did you check the empty square next to the routine phrase, "I'm not a robot"? How many times did you obediently search on blurry, divided into equal squares images for traffic lights, pedestrian crossings, fire hydrants, or yellow school buses? We do this completely mechanically, getting annoyed for a fraction of a second, and then obediently continue our usual path through the endless digital world. We were told from the very beginning that this is just a basic security measure, a simple and absolutely necessary way to protect useful sites from intrusive spam and automatic malicious programs. It sounds quite logical and reassuring. But the deeper I dug, the scarier the picture became. The official version falls apart as soon as you start asking the right questions and methodically tracking hidden data flows. What we have accepted for many years as banal technological protection of portals was in fact the largest scale, most ingenious, and, most importantly, completely free program of hidden exploitation of human labor in the entire history of our civilization. Let's go back a bit to the early 2000s, when you had to enter two crooked, barely readable words from the screen. The controlling system already knew one of them, but not the second. We were assured that this was just an attention test to separate a living person from a soulless bot. But in harsh reality, we, along with you, millions of ordinary users around the planet, manually, letter by letter, digitized huge archives of old newspapers and dusty books for powerful corporations. Each of your keystrokes brought them pure profit and saved billions of dollars on salaries for professional text typists. We did this monotonous work absolutely voluntarily and completely for free, just to gain access to the information we needed, buy a concert ticket, or send an email. And then, the collecting algorithm quietly evolved and became more complex. They stopped giving us snippets of printed texts. They began to slip us photos of streets, vehicles, and urban infrastructure. And here the pattern repeats, but on a completely different, much more global and overtly sinister level. Obediently marking store windows, bridges, and passenger cars, we were not just proving to the invisible algorithm that we are living people of flesh and blood. Unknowingly, we ourselves acted as free laborers, patient trainers who, step by step, day after day, trained complex machine vision. Every correctly marked image of yours with a cyclist or road sign instantly went into a massive database, which a little later allowed the largest corporations to create advanced autopilot systems and detailed navigation for unmanned vehicles. We ourselves, with our own hands and eyes, taught their algorithms to see the physical world exactly as we see it. We diligently trained our own technological replacement, sincerely believing that we were just passing a routine humanity test. The cruel irony is that this seemingly harmless test for belonging to the human race became the very first and most important step toward making humanity technologically redundant and economically unviable. But this great digital illusion did not end there. It only began to gain destructive momentum. Look at the endless user agreements in popular social networks that we habitually scroll through to the end and accept without looking, pressing just one consent button. We were skillfully convinced that we were getting an amazing free platform for communication, a unique opportunity to share personal photos, passionately argue in comments, and find new friends on the other side of the world. We were beautifully sold the utopian idea of a global village where every person's voice has enormous significance and weight. But the business model of mega corporations in the information technology sector was never built on altruism or care for others. Social networks were originally not places for our pleasant pastime. They were designed as gigantic, unprecedented proving grounds for the total collection of behavioral data. Every like we set, every angry comment we left, every second of delay in our gaze on a particular video All of this was carefully collected, meticulously classified, and sent to bottomless storage on cool servers. Ask yourself one terrifying, sobering question. At exactly what moment did we voluntarily digitize our entire unique life experience? Our most intimate emotions, our professional knowledge and hidden fears, handing them over to corporations forever on a silver platter. We ourselves wrote billions of meaningful texts, created millions of hours of training videos, drew countless stunning pictures and graphs. With our own hands, we uploaded the entire human culture to the global network. Absolutely all our sincere reactions to emotional pain, bright joy, social injustice, and profound love. And the tech giants simply took this priceless, accumulated over long millennia trove of data and loaded it into their isolated computing centers to train generative artificial intelligence. We naively laughed at how clumsily the very first algorithms tried to joke, write poetry, or draw human hands with 6 fingers, completely failing to understand that this was merely a fleeting infancy stage. For many years, we fed this virtual infant with ourselves. Every conscious or unconscious action of ours was a tiny but infinitely important brick in the solid foundation of the system that is right now preparing to throw us to the roadside of history as utterly unnecessary. We were successfully convinced that we were building a bright and convenient future for ourselves. But in objective reality, we were methodically, day after day, constructing the infrastructure for our own disposal. If we want to fully grasp the entire scale of the looming catastrophe, we will have to descend to the level of the fundamental foundations of our society and carefully examine exactly how we were prepared for this systemic trap. The official version crumbles into tiny shards as soon as you begin analyzing the history of mass education and comparing it with current economic realities. Throughout the entire 20th century, state institutions around the world built a rigid education system that suspiciously resembled assembly line production. Class bells, strict rows of desks, mindless memorization of standardized facts, and unconditional submission to authority. This system never truly aimed to raise free creators or independent thinkers. Its cold task was mass production of obedient cogs for huge industrial factories, and a bit later, for vast corporate offices. People were trained for decades to monotonous labor, to a strict schedule from 9 in the morning until 5 in the evening, to performing repetitive algorithms for a stable salary. We were taught to be ideal biological machines, capable of shuffling papers, balancing accounting ledgers, or answering calls according to a pre-written script. We performed this role excellently, until suddenly, the rules of the game changed unilaterally. Today, these millions of perfectly trained cogs have become unnecessary to anyone. The mechanism they diligently serviced was decided to be completely rebuilt, and the old biological parts simply written off into historical scrap. Every time we try to trace the actions of global corporations during moments of social upheavals, let's recall those very global crises of the last few years that turned the world labor market upside down. People found themselves locked in their homes, office life stopped, and suddenly millions of hired workers from Europe to the United States of America realized their true value. The unimaginable happened. Employees began dictating terms. They mass demanded the preservation of remote work format, radical wage increases, improved working conditions, and adherence to work-life balance. For the first time in decades, the white-collar working class gained real leverage. Unions emerged, strikes began, quiet quits and mass jumps to competitors. People sincerely believed they had defeated the sluggish capitalist machine, that now corporations would be forced to reckon with their needs, care about their health, and pay a fair price for their precious time. But elites never surrender, and never voluntarily give up part of their profits. While hired workers celebrated their local victory, enjoying the opportunity to work from home in comfortable clothes and drink coffee in their own kitchen during working hours, in the closed laboratories of the largest tech giants, a symmetrical and absolutely ruthless response was already being prepared. Pay attention to this striking, almost mystical, but in fact strictly mathematical and precisely calibrated synchronicity. As soon as people's demands for wage increases and flexible schedules reached their historical peak, corporations suddenly, and almost simultaneously, as if on a hidden command from a single center, rolled out generative neural networks to the mass market. What yesterday seemed like a clumsy toy instantly turned into the most powerful tool, capable of writing software code, creating illustrations, balancing financial reports, and consulting clients in dozens of languages simultaneously. We were presented with this as the greatest achievement of human genius, as an incredible tool that would forever free us from routine. But if you look closely at the cold facts, you will understand one terrifying thing. This is not care. This is disposal. Disposal of that very working class that dared to demand too much comfort and basic human respect for itself. The deeper I dug into the financial documentation of information technology companies, the more cynical the picture became. The main proof of this hidden culling process was the mass layoffs in the IT sector, which rolled like a black wave across the world in 2023 and 2024. It was an unprecedented spectacle. The richest companies on the planet, with hundreds of billions of dollars on their accounts, suddenly began ruthlessly throwing tens of thousands of their most loyal employees out onto the street. They fired programmers, testers, designers, and managers. People were cut off from corporate systems in the middle of the night, receiving dry notifications via email. Official corporate press releases were filled with vague phrases about optimizing business processes, a tough macroeconomic situation, and the need to tighten belts in anticipation of a crisis. But the devil is in the details and in the financial reports. The paradox was that while tens of thousands of living people, with their mortgages and families, found themselves out the door, the stocks of these very tech giants on world exchanges skyrocketed. Investors rejoiced, reaping fabulous profits. Where did the vaunted financial instability disappear to? The answer is simple and horrifying. Companies were firing people not because they ran out of money. They were firing them because they found a much more effective use for that money. Those billions of dollars that previously went to payroll, medical insurance, paid vacations, and pension fund contributions were instantly redirected into a different channel. The freed-up giant budgets went to mass purchases of super-powerful servers, construction of huge data processing centers, and acquisition of specialized chips necessary for artificial intelligence operations. Corporations calculated that investing in reliable silicon is more profitable than paying a living person demanding their rights. People have fully fulfilled their historical function before global capital. We ourselves created the digital infrastructure with our own hands, trained virtual surrogates, and now must be permanently excluded from the global economic chain. Throughout all known human history, man has invariably been perceived as the most valuable and irreplaceable resource of any economic model. Whether an ancient slave on an endless plantation, a medieval peasant in the field, an unnamed factory worker at the blast furnace, or a modern office clerk, the system always desperately needed the physical or intellectual labor of living people. We were needed by state machines and financial empires as producers of real goods, as submissive taxpayers regularly filling the treasury, and as insatiable consumers of an endless stream of industrial products. For long centuries, we lived within this unspoken social contract, where our unconditional value was measured by our ability to bring tangible profit. But today, this centuries-old order is being unilaterally terminated at a rapid pace. The deeper I dug into the economic prerequisites of the current global technological changes, the more terrifying the picture unfolding before me became. We stand on the threshold of an unprecedented historical rupture, when man turns from the main engine of the economy into a catastrophically unprofitable and utterly useless ballast. The official version crumbles to dust when corporations tell us that new, advanced technologies will simply free us from heavy routine work, finally allowing us to engage in free creativity and spiritual self-development. This is a grand lie, professionally constructed solely to lull our vigilance. The real truth is that it is no longer profitable for the system to maintain biological units that require such a colossal amount of care and giant financial costs. Think for yourself, from the perspective of absolutely ruthless, cold, capitalist logic. A living hired employee today is nothing but a continuous chain of unending problems and unpredictable economic costs. A fragile person of flesh and blood can suddenly fall ill and lawfully demand paid sick leave. A person has the incredible audacity to physically tire, fall into depression, burn out emotionally at the workplace, and regularly demand legal annual vacation. Living people critically need independent unions to protect their basic labor rights. They vitally need maternity leaves, expensive medical insurance, safe, well-lit and heated office spaces, and at the end of their long work path, the state or corporate system is obliged to pay them pensions for many more years. This is a colossal, unbearable financial burden on any modern business. And now look closely at the ideal employee of the new digital world. Artificial intelligence never asks for a salary increase due to suddenly surging inflation. It doesn't need a regulated workday at all. It is ready to function uninterruptedly and maximally efficiently 24 hours a day and 365 days a year. It will never organize a mass strike, unite with other servers in a union, or sue its employer for gender discrimination. Artificial intelligence needs only a stable power supply, ice-cold water for continuous server cooling, and timely automatic software algorithm updates. Just as cumbersome tractors once permanently replaced millions of living horses on agricultural fields, ruthlessly sending them to slaughterhouses, so now invisible digital algorithms methodically replace people in offices, sending them to the social sidelines. But to fully realize the true scale of this looming social catastrophe, it is necessary to ask oneself the most important, fundamental question of any forensic investigation. Who exactly benefits from this in the long term? For long centuries, valuable knowledge and unique professional experience were reliably decentralized. They rightfully belong to the entire human society, being evenly distributed among millions of qualified doctors, engineers, lawyers, writers, and architects. You could not monopolize any complex profession, because to do so, you would have to completely subjugate the independent minds of millions of independent specialists around the globe. But right now, before our very eyes, the boldest theft in the entire multi-millennial history of human civilization is taking place. The absolute monopolization of intelligence. All that incredible volume of priceless knowledge that humanity has been collecting and systematizing for millennia is now rigidly concentrated on the closed servers of just 3 or 4 gigantic megacorporations. These technological monopolists have effectively privatized the very human ability to think logically, deeply analyze complex information, and create entirely new meanings. Now knowledge no longer belongs to free society. It has become the exclusive private property of a very narrow, closed group of elites. If previously corporations had to hire thousands of highly paid professionals to gain access to their brains, Now it is enough for them to unconditionally own one huge data processing center. This gives them absolute and uncontrolled power over world financial markets and national governments. If it still seems to you that all this is just paranoid conspiracy theories or deliberate exaggeration, then just listen very carefully to what the architects of this new world order themselves say at their closed elite gatherings. On the prestigious platforms of the World Economic Forum for a long time now, no one has been shy about openly discussing the nearest future, in which there is simply no physical place for the absolute majority of us. The brightest, most cynical, and frightening mouthpiece of these anti-human ideas is consistently the famous philosopher and chief intellectual ideologue of global elites, Yuval Noah Harari. He openly, from the podiums of international conferences and with chilling, icy calm, introduced into wide public circulation the terrifying term, useless class. Ponder the true, profound meaning of these cruel words. It is not just about unemployed people who temporarily lost their jobs due to another economic crisis and can successfully retrain in another specialty within a year. Harari speaks of the inevitable formation of a gigantic stratum of the population that will be fundamentally and forever unemployable in any sector of the economy. The skills of these people will become obsolete once and for all, and their biological and intellectual potential will hopelessly lag behind the infinitely growing computational capabilities of algorithms. In the 20th century, ordinary people had enormous value because conducting large-scale world wars required millions of obedient soldiers, and for work at defense factories, millions of sturdy workers. Today, for conducting wars, a swarm of deadly drones controlled by artificial intelligence is sufficient, and modern factories are almost completely automated. World elites no longer even try to hide their plans. They openly state that 80% of the population of our planet will soon become economically and politically superfluous. This new, artificially created useless class will not be offered any new modern jobs, because any creative activity of a living person will initially and knowingly lose to machine intelligence in reaction speed, quality of final execution, and ultimate product cost. The traditional system of classical education cannot save these doomed people at all, because by the time an ordinary student spends 5 or 6 grueling years diligently mastering a new profession, artificial intelligence will have painlessly changed dozens of generations of its algorithms and master that very same profession to perfection in just a few short milliseconds. The popular fairy tale about the need to continuously learn throughout one's entire life is merely a cruel social deception designed to occupy our free time with something while the steel trap finally snaps shut over our heads. This is an absolutely closed circle from which there is no conceivable way out for an ordinary person deprived of direct access to unlimited computing power. They are trying with all their might to convince us that this technological progress will ultimately bring universal prosperity and equality for every inhabitant of Earth. With the help of beautiful, bright presentations, they paint utopian pictures of a bright future where smart machines obediently take on the entire heavy burden, and people carefree enjoy high art. But dry economic mathematics and the ruthless logic of late capitalism irrefutably prove the exact opposite. This is not care. This is disposal. Disposal of an entire biological species that, with its own hands, completely for free and with genuine enthusiasm, created perfect technological tools for its final and irreversible elimination from the main historical stage once and for all. When you truly begin to deeply realize the true scale of the looming technological catastrophe, the most frightening question inevitably arises, one that makes your blood run cold. What exactly are these powerful world elites planning to do with those very 80% of the planet's population who will soon completely lose their economic value and turn into a useless class? Billions of desperate, futureless people. This is a colossal and absolutely uncontrollable threat to any system. And it is precisely here that the biggest bomb comes into play, the grand final act of this decades-long spectacle. We are about to experience a tectonic shift in the very paradigm of human existence. We stand on the threshold of a historical transition from the familiar concept of earn a living through your labor to a completely new concept of receive permission to live from a corporation. We are beautifully sold the idea of unconditional basic income through dozens of bought mass media outlets. This concept is insistently presented to a tired society as the greatest humanistic utopia of the 21st century. We are told, you no longer need to work hard. Artificial intelligence will provide every single person with a minimal but guaranteed set of life's necessities completely for free. It sounds incredibly attractive, like a long-awaited liberation from daily routine. But the deeper I dug, the scarier the picture became. If you analyze the hidden mechanisms of implementing this so-called unconditional basic income with utmost attention, the official version crumbles literally before your eyes, leaving behind only a cold mathematical calculation. Global capital has historically not been characterized by charity. Unconditional basic income is not at all a manifestation of incredible humanity from the ruling class. It is a grand trap, the final turn of the key in the steel lock of your invisible digital cell. As colonizers once handed out free glass beads to indigenous people to herd them into reservations, so today they offer us absolutely free digital money to voluntarily herd us into a global concentration camp. The true goal of this universal income is not at all to make you free creators, but to make you totally dependent. When a living person is completely deprived of the ability to independently earn a livelihood through their unique labor, they instantly lose any capacity for resistance. As soon as you agree to sit on this needle of regular rations, you voluntarily give the faceless system the sole right to decide whether you are even worthy of living the next month of your life on this planet. This is not care. This is disposal. Disposal of your free will, independence, and human dignity. But how exactly will continuous control over these billions of people on state support be exercised? And here, the main technological tool of the New World Order takes center stage: central bank digital currencies. These projects are right now being developed and tested by governments in all countries of the world, from Europe to the United States of America. Central bank digital currencies are the absolute opposite of any financial freedom. These are so-called programmable money, the pinnacle of social engineering. In this new world, you will never again receive familiar rubles or dollars on your account that you can anonymously withdraw from an ATM, hide under the mattress, save for years to buy your own house, or pass on to your children as inheritance. From now on, you will be credited only with conditional digital tokens, whose functions are rigidly programmed by smart algorithms long before they reach your wallet. And the most terrifying property of these new money is their expiration date. Your basic income will be ingeniously programmed so that you must spend it to the last penny by the end of the current month. Everything you don't manage to spend will simply automatically burn up and disappear without a trace exactly at midnight. This is a genius economic mechanism that forever deprives a person of the basic ability to accumulate capital. Without personal savings, you will never be able to start your own independent business. You will forever remain on an ultra-short leash, from one free handout to the next. However, Expiration date is only the visible tip of the iceberg of total technological control. Programmable money has another, far more sinister functionality: strict, targeted allocation that will be directly tied to your social behavior and your ecological rating. Your virtual wallet will continuously track every one of your purchases, calculating your personal carbon footprint. If an automated system, coldly controlled by mega-corporation algorithms, decides that you have already exceeded your allowable emissions limit for this month, your programmable money will simply technically fail when you try to buy a real piece of quality farm-raised meat or pay for an airplane ticket to visit your parents in another city. The payment terminal will ruthlessly issue an error, and you will be able to do nothing about it. Meanwhile, your digital tokens will always work reliably if you obediently decide to buy cheap, freeze-dried food, artificially produced from synthetic plant proteins on gigantic, closed factories of monopolists. Your programmed money will always be available to pay for high-speed internet or buy a premium subscription to new virtual reality services. You will not be able to buy freedom of movement or normal food, but your transactions for virtual entertainment and food concentrate will always be approved. Here it is, in all its frightening splendor, the absolutely ideal plan for containing those very 80% of the useless class. No rusty barbed wire, no high concrete walls, no gloomy overseers with dogs. All that is hopelessly outdated. People will quietly sit in their tiny capsule apartments, eat freeze-dried food, and spend 15 hours a day wearing virtual reality helmets. It is precisely there, in the endless drawn digital world, that they will feel like brave heroes, experiencing incredibly vivid but absolutely synthetic emotions, and meanwhile, their physical bodies will imperceptibly degrade in the real world. The state will never again need to apply brute police force to suppress protests. If you suddenly wake up from this delusion and express the slightest doubt about the correctness of the elite's actions, no one will arrest you. Your digital wallet will simply hit pause. Your carbon rating will be automatically reset to 0, the electronic lock on the door will simply not open, and your targeted money will turn into a useless set of pixels. You will be elegantly disconnected from the only available life support system with one click of a computer mouse on a remote server. This is the most crystalline, pure dictatorship in history, in which the very concept of money is brilliantly transformed into a self-regulating weapon of subjugation. We ourselves hand over our freedom to corporations without even noticing how the door slams shut behind our backs. We are used to thinking that dystopia is soldiers in identical uniforms, a dictator on the screen, and barbed wire around the perimeter of concrete ghettos. But world elites turned out to be much smarter than 20th century writers. The greatest traps in history have always masqueraded as the greatest good. The modern digital concentration camp is not built from brick and steel. It is erected from unprecedented everyday comfort, invisible algorithms, and a guaranteed basic ration. No one will force people into cells. People themselves will joyfully line up in queues to surrender their freedom in exchange for a free set of freeze-dried food, virtual entertainment, and relief from responsibility. Prisoners of the new world will sincerely love their cage because it will adapt to their slightest desires, providing a dopamine flow through device screens. We ourselves handed over the keys to consciousness to information technology corporations, trading real life for its cheap simulation. When the need to work hard for the survival of your family disappears, when algorithms think, write, and create for you, the human mind inevitably begins to atrophy. This is a law of biology against which no defense can be built. Elites who have monopolized artificial intelligence perfectly understand this mechanism. They deliberately immerse 80% of the population in a warm bath of inaction to forever exclude the possibility of social rebellion. In this perfectly designed world of the future, You will never again have to make difficult decisions. Your smart home will order food itself based on your carbon rating. Your virtual assistant will select entertainment itself. And central bank programmable money will burn up itself at the moment when it is profitable for the economy. Your dreams and professional aspirations will be archived as unnecessary. You are no longer a resource. You are a historical relic that an intelligent automatic system will care for some time to maintain peace. Ponder this right now, while you still have the ability to think independently and draw conclusions. The system has already issued its final verdict, and it is not subject to appeal. Your experience is fully digitized, your profession is living out its last days, and your personal freedom is forever traded for basic convenience. Ask yourself one single, terrifying question. What will you do on that cold morning when the bright screen of your computer indifferently reports that the work of your entire life, knowledge accumulated over years, and your very profession have been officially declared a historical rudiment? You will have nowhere else to go, no one to turn to, and no one to seek protection from, because on the other side of the digital screen, there is no longer a single living person.